Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you Dotted. Dotted is an AI-centric workflow tool for knowledge workers. It essentially models itself as a product manager, so it's very different from working with AI in other tools in that you don't have to know how you want to accomplish your goal, you don't have to know how the tool works, you just have to know what you want to accomplish in the real world, and Dotted will help you accomplish that. We're going to practice today with a real-world example from a friend of mine who works in noxious plant remediation here in Washington State. So we're gonna try something that is a real problem from his life. We're gonna come up here, we're gonna do a thing. I've already set up this project, so it has a little bit of information about his job. Washington State knotweed remediation. All right, so we come into our do a thing goal here, and it says, it gives us some suggestions. Reduce knotweed presence along rivers, secure sustainable project funding, engage and educate local stakeholders. Those are pretty good, but I'm gonna put in a different one. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, help me write a grant to secure sustainable project funding for reducing noxious weeds in Snoqualmie County in 2026. All right. If we had some documents, we could throw them in here. So if I had an example previous grant or something like that, I could put it in, but I don't have any of that stuff right now. So right away, Dotted starts to act like a real PM. It doesn't just go and do a thing. It starts to ask you questions. It wants to understand what you're working on. We actually have a much more sophisticated version of this in the works, but it wasn't ready today for this demo. So let's see, what should the grant achieve for knotweed remediation? Let's say So this is another thing that's very different about working with Dotted than other tools. Just like when you work with a real PM, if you don't know the answer, you can just say that. This is definitely something that we're aware of right now, is that because the tool is thinking so deeply, it is a little bit slow. All right, so here we go. It's produced for us a high-level plan of what it thinks is the right way for us to approach this. So we can take a look at this whole plan. We can edit it if we want to, we can remove steps, but usually it's pretty good. So the first thing it wants to do is it wants to develop stakeholder profiles. This is a key capability of Dotted. It allows us to build out personas that are going to help us determine whether we've written the right thing later. It's going to write a document, it's going to create a comprehensive grant proposal, generate metrics, it's going to make a grant workflow prototype. This is like an interactive HTML page where we can use that for good storytelling. And then it's going to use those AI stakeholders to give us feedback. And then it's going to give us suggestions for what we do next. This looks good. I'm going to hit start plan. This is going to take a couple of minutes. So I'm going to cut here and come back when it's ready. Great. So we can see that it went and it completed this task. It made us a handful of stakeholders here, a community environmental manager, a scientist, a property owner, and a regional grant evaluator. I'm just going to click into one of these. So these personas, these stakeholders are personas that are useful in our work. They can give us AI feedback. We can talk to them directly in chat. Essentially, they allow you to have a version of a person you don't necessarily have access to, or you don't have timely access to work in your flow, so you can get done in minutes what previously would take you days waiting for feedback from a real person. Helps you get to yes more quickly, helps you produce things that are going to line up and match with a specific kind of user or customer or gatekeeper much more quickly. So what do we have? We have a background. We have an understanding of their focus areas. We have their key questions. This is sort of like the operating system of a person. What are the questions that they ask on a loop? And then we have a DISC psychological profile that helps us really understand what the right way is to interact with this kind of person. So you can see that we got that for all four of these different kinds of people. Let's go take a look at the actual grant. So we got a nice looking grant that came out here. It's got a lot of detailed information. This stuff is all going to be very, very high quality. But it also produced for us a series of other things. A sheet here that describes what our metrics would be. This kind of content is being produced using top tier product management frameworks for mapping goals and outcomes. So I'm sure if we dug into this, we would find really things that we like a lot in here. But what I want to look at here is We came up with some ideas for what our next steps are going to be. This is really, really helpful. In another part of the demo, I'm going to show you that I can actually take this kind of work and push it directly from a document into a task tracking tool like Jira for execution. But right now I want to move on. This was just a really good example of showing that we can go ahead and start from nothing and get a really, really comprehensive start, that we're not limited to product spaces like software, that our tool actually can be a product or program or project manager and work interactively with you across a wide variety of problem spaces. All right, so you've seen how Dotted can help you get from 0 to 1. Now I'm going to show you how it can be used to pick up in the middle of an existing project. We're going to start by uploading some documents. These documents are for an imaginary company called Barksoft. Barksoft's job is to make clones of popular products, but remake them for dogs. So they've already shipped a product called Bark B&B, which is Airbnb, but for dogs. And in this situation, I'm going to be pitching a product or trying to develop a product called Doogbur, which is Uber for dogs. So you can see we've uploaded these documents. That was a real spreadsheet, a real PDF, and a real Word file. So let's just start here. Here's what a weekly status update looks like. Here's what the export from our Jira looks like. It just came right in. Here's what the software design document, very highly technical. Here's the 2-pager from the Bark B&B, and here's the PR FAQ for Doogbur. So what you can see here is this is already pretty well established, and there's actually feedback in here from my stakeholders in this scenario, designer Alice and engineer Mike. So the idea here is that I've already had this document reviewed. I got some feedback. Now what? So I bring it to Dotted and I go here and I say detect stakeholders. So what it's going to do is it's going to go through this document and find the stakeholders, and it's going to create profiles just like the ones that we saw in the last demo. And it's going to do that looking either at the comments or looking at the content inside the document. It's going to do its best from the content of any comments from that user to come up with a set of attributes that are going to match well with them. So here we go, designer Alice and engineer Mike. Looking pretty good. So what we can do next is we can actually come in here, and I could go and have it revise this document for me, but instead I'm going to do something else. I don't want to work in a PR FAQ because Barksoft actually really likes to use 2-pagers. So I'm going to come to this 2-pager and I'm going to say use this as a template. We're going to create a Doogbur 2-pager, and we're going to use this document as a template, and we're going to use the Doogbur PR FAQ as the data. So what this is for is, like, if you work in a company that has a lot of particular formats for status updates or release notes, or if you use a particular PRD or a crisis resolution template, right? A lot of companies are starting to use these sorts of templates in this way. So if you do, you can use any kind of unstructured data and generate a new document in the exact formatting of the old one. This also means that we can go and grab unstructured data from a place like Jira and use it to update that weekly update. You could go to a place like GitHub and see what pull requests were merged and use that to update your weekly release notes. You can use this capability of mashing unstructured data through a structured format a lot of different ways. So we asked for it, and out pops the Doogbur 2-pager. You can see it matches the other 2-pager template exactly, but I want to know if this is a good document. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, give me some feedback from my virtual stakeholders, designer Alice and engineer Mike. So what this should do is that it should get feedback from those two personas and push that through this document, and we should see some either comments right in the document or some feedback in chat, depending on what kind of feedback it is. Okay, so we got both. We got feedback in chat and we got comments right in here. Okay, detail this, define this. Okay, so we got design feedback. Do we get some engineering feedback? Just design feedback. So let's say I'm also going to put in a piece of comment here. Make this attention grabbing. Okay, so we've got some feedback in here. Now we just go boop. We want a revision. So this is one of the great things about working with Dotted. Instead of having to go in chat and say, change this, change this, change this, change this, you can just say, hey, I've given you some feedback, give me a revision. Same way you would with a normal person. But unlike with a normal person, instead of getting that feedback at the end of day or tomorrow, you get it in moments. So you've got this loop where you can iterate really quickly. You've got sort of like sandbox versions of real people or imaginary people you wish you had access to. You've got this kind of like document editing, product management intern that's able to handle ambiguous, repetitive, classic PM tasks. And you can just crunch really, really quickly. And you can see what comes out of a revision like this is a diff that allows you to see exactly what's changed. So it's responded to comments. It's also tightened it up. We're going to go right here and say accept. Boom. Now we've got a nice version of this. So let's ask one more question here. I'm going to ask it to make us some user stories. And because we've modeled Dotted as a product manager with an internal understanding of classic product management frameworks, it can do this kind of stuff really, really quickly. And you can see it knows just what a user story is. It's using this classic framework. As a customer, I want to earn rewards for frequent rides, so I am incentivized to use Dugbur regularly. So I'm going to just put this in here. And I'm going to grab prompts from my sort of like library over here. And I'm going to try and send this straight to Jira. So Jira is currently connected to Dotted via the Jira MCP server. We support any kind of MCP connection, streamable SSE, HTTPS. Soon we're going to support OAuth. Whoops, I don't have the right user story configured in here. But if I did, it was going to send that straight over. Let's try it again, actually. So this is just going to send this straight over to Jira. And essentially, this can work bidirectionally. You can send things from documents over to Jira. You can tell Dotted to go look in Jira and find changes and push those changes into your documents. So you end up with this tool which can really, really facilitate not just product thinking, not just planning, but also the kind of repetitive, ambiguous tasks that just eat product managers alive and are causing them to be really, really not able to stay ahead of execution right now. So that's just a small sample of what Dotted can do. I know this was a little bit long, but hopefully you stayed tuned all the way here to the end. You can check it out right now. Go to trydotted.com. Thanks.